Welcome to part 4 in this series with Jack Tomasello.
I think if you visit every winery, everybody does things a little different based on where they're located and what they have the capacity to do where they're located. The very, very fortunate thing that happened to our state when we were fortunate to pass direct shipping in 2012, the sponsor of that legislation, who was Senate President at the time, Senator Steve Sweeney, gave us the opportunity to open 15 retail outlets. Each winery can have the ability to have 15 retail outlets, which is great because a lot of wineries who may not necessarily have the capacity to handle crowds could open an outlet in a farm market somewhere, or can open an outlet in a town that might have a very very nice downtown that where people tourism town. And so we're fortunate. We have 9 retail outlets all over the state. Our furthest one is up in Bergen County and Wyckoff, and we have a farm market outlet out in Chester and one in Freehold, and we have a really cool storefront store in Cranford, New Jersey, and one in Lambertville, and another farm outlet in Johnson's Farm in Mount Holly, and we also have a store in Mount Holly, and we're at the town of historic Smithville. We have 2 outlets there, and I might be leaving one out. I don't know. I have to think about it. We have 9 of them, but Hammonton, the main winery in Hammonton, we have a banquet facility where we do private events. We do have a tasting room. We have an area where you can come and have security and cheese and wine, and then certain times of the year we'll offer lunch menus and have lunch. We do special events occasionally. We do opera galas, which we've been doing for over 25 years, where the Academy of Vocal Arts brings in performers that sing opera, and we do live opera with a 5-course gourmet meal. And we do certain things like ladies' night and things like that, where people come out to the winery and experience what we're doing. Some wineries do a lot of things outside more than we do, because I don't have the room to do it like some of my friends do, where they will do outside concerts and music and performers. So depending on the time of the year, you can go to any winery and have a different experience. I mean, there's food trucks in some wineries. Some wineries don't have food and some do. Some have restaurants, some have catering facilities, some have food trucks, some do concerts, some do inside, some do outside, some do both. So it's really neat. I mean, I think any consumer could really enjoy all the New Jersey wineries if they chose to, and find a different experience at each one of them. It's farm, it's winery, it's tourism. It's a combination of all that. Some of the things I think we're going to look at doing this year for the first time in 5 years is all of us as a group, the Garden State Wine Growers Association, we're going to go out and do a number of festivals, or where we can go to a county park or state park, and all of this will be there, where people can come out to see all of us under one area. Come out to a wine festival, and it's something. Although there are wine festivals all over the state, we're going to have a couple of Garden State Wine Growers events where it's all of us together, going to a location where people could come and taste the wines. And so it's we're not different than anybody else. I think a lot of states have turned into what our state is. It's really the California model. I mean, this is where it all started, out in the West Coast, where people go from winery to winery. They'll go out to California to do wine tours. Well, now you can do a wine tour here. You can do a wine tour in New York. There's Uncork, New York. There's the Garden State Wine Growers. There's a lot of states have this. Pennsylvania. We all have this. It's not new. It's not. We didn't invent anything. It kind of evolved. One day it changed. I mean, really, honestly, one day it just changed, and I can't tell you when, and I I can only tell you it changed because when I started in this business, people would come out to the winery, taste 3 wines maybe, make a decision on what they want, and buy the wines, put it in their trunk of their car, and be on their way. And that whole transaction would probably take no more than 10 or 15 minutes. Today, it's an experience. People want to come out to the winery. They want to have an experience. I guess it's, and I was thinking about this the other day, it's a lot like Starbucks. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, we didn't have anything like that, and I'm 62. But my father's generation, my father always talked about going to the malt shop or the local pharmacy that had a malt shop, or where, if you ever watch Happy Days, where the kids were always going after school to a place that had a jukebox, and they would dance and they would have milkshakes. Yeah. So that went away in my generation. We didn't have anything like that. Maybe we had pizza parlors, but that was it. I mean, and all of a sudden coffee shops started to open up and people were going to hang out in Starbucks, and for instance, that's an example, but you go to a place where you socialize and you drink coffee and so wineries have turned into that. I mean, people go now to a winery, 3 or 4 people, and they'll sit there and they'll buy a bottle of wine and have charcuterie and, order a cheese plate or something, and sit and chat. And they may spend an hour there, 2 hours, it's a social event. It's a get together. And that's what it's turned into. I mean, so that evolved. I mean, I don't know how that evolved, but it just did. And all of it's been ourselves, especially the wonders that were older like ourselves, having to transition into that from what we used to be, which was, you came in, you bought your wine, you left.
Dustin Tarpine from Cedar Rose attributes that shift to the sort of farm to table mentality.
And I guess I had a hard time adjusting to that because, I'd be out in my vineyard and all of a sudden I'd turn around and there's people sitting on the grass with a bottle of wine and a blanket and a basket, and I'm like, wow, they're hanging out here. Why? I mean, but yeah, you're right. They wanted to be in the middle of it all, and that was that's okay. It's great. I'm glad that they found peace. It kind of happened during COVID a lot. The first year at COVID, when you couldn't go inside, you were kind of closed, but you weren't. And people wanted to be outside and away from everybody. And I would be at the winery and just find people all over the place. Parked in the vineyard, outside, just sitting under a vine, sitting under a plant, and just meditating and not even necessarily having a glass of wine, just being out there, and socializing with other people. And so that's where it ended up being. It could be, I think he's right about that. I think it's farm to table, and but this is what people do now, and you see it in the microbreweries too. I mean, and you see it all over. People just want to socialize. They want to get together, and music has come back to most of these places. Now, we don't do a lot with the music. Now, we do in a couple places. Our store in Lambertville has music on the weekends. We have artists that come in and perform their own material, that kind of thing. Starving artists to come in and play. But this goes back to supper clubs that were popular in the late 1970s and mid-1970s. I was a musician before I was in the wine business, so I played in those bands that played in these supper clubs where people would come and socialize back in those days. But now it's different. It's outside. They want to hear music outside. They want to drink wine. They want to sit on a blanket and have a picnic and enjoy live music and wine and food and to be with people. So it's I guess it goes in cycles. I think this is here to stay for a while, though. I think it really is.
And none of my wine drinking friends have any idea the proximity that they were in to good wineries or good old world wineries. They thought South Jersey was all fruit wine.
That's always been, and unfortunately, that's the label that we got. I mean, we don't get me wrong. We produce a lot of fruit wines, but we also produce a line called Palmaris, and in Latin that means prizeworthy. We produce a lot of very good dry red wines that have scored in the 90s, won gold medals, and we have Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc, and there's a unique one called Blaufränkisch and Petit Verdot, and there's Chambres, and there's Pinot Noir. So we're growing all these, and we're making all these dry wines. And so for somebody who's looking for an old world wine, and they might want to come and have eat bruschetta and drink Sangiovese or something. I mean, they could come in and do that here, and have a pairing, wine and cheese pairing. And they're all with old style wines. But we also make, I always felt we have to make things for everybody, because not everybody's a wine drinker. And the vast majority of the people that walk in your door are there to have fun, and they don't maybe drink dry wine. So you have to have something for everybody. And that's the way we feel. We've always felt that we want to produce, and that's why we produce so many different wines, is we got to find what everybody likes. And I always say to everyone, your life is short, drink what you like, and not what your friends tell you to drink. I mean, it might not be the right wine, but if it's the right wine for you, it's the right wine, and that seems to work pretty well. But I think it's a new world of a new, just a new beginning for how people appreciate our products these days. It's been different. I mean, I've been doing this since the late 1970s, early 1980s, and it's changed so much. And a lot of the newer wineries that go in, I tell them how it was in the old days. They were like, "Oh my God, how boring!" And they were right. It was. And it's not boring anymore. It's a lot of fun. We have it set up where it's where people drink responsibly. We want everybody to be safe. And we look over that, make sure that's important. And then there's a lot of times people will come. They'll rent a bus, or they'll run a limousine, and a group of people will come. A lot of times we get on the weekends we'll get very popular with the ladies, more so than the men. The fellas don't get into this as much, but we'll get the bachelorette parties, and thank God they run a limousine or a bus. It's good that they do that, And we always tell them, make sure someone's driving everybody home. I'm sure when you get to your final destination, there's a designated driver, But that's popular.
The Wine Growers event on I think it's May 7th.
Well, that's a fun one to do every year, and I just did a podcast with Rich Zioli from 1210 Radio just a couple of days ago, and they're involved in that as well. But South Jersey Tourism is involved in that, and that's over at Cooper River Park in Pennsauken. It's a fun event. People come out. It's the day of the Kentucky Derby. And of course, we have a bonnet contest, or we have a best dressed contest, because people really come dressed like they're going to the Kentucky Derby. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's all good humor, and we haven't done that. And this is the first time in 3 years now since the pandemic that we had the opportunity to do it. I think it'll be a good time for all. If tickets go on sale, I think you could go to any of the way. I think it's on my website. I mean, I know we're posting it and sharing it with everybody, but you can go online and get tickets for it. But it's a lot of fun. I think there's 11 wineries that are going to be there this time. It's getting difficult to have all of us in the same spot. I think there's like 65 wineries now. So we tend to break it up into groups.
Yeah, the Down in Derby Wine Festival.
Down in Derby, yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe and like the show on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere you listen.